So as you said, I'm Sergeant Samolinski out of Global Strike A6. I go by Sergeant Sam. And my story, though I was born in 1982, my story really begins in April of 1993. And my parents had divorced when I was young, and I was staying with my dad. And he got a phone call that my mom had shot and killed herself. And at 10 years old, you know, for me as a little girl, my mom was my entire world. She meant everything to me. She was cool. She had like a monster truck dream, and she went off-roading. She did all sorts of cool stuff, but she was everything I wanted to be. She was the epitome of strength, and just a nurturing, loving mom. And I was just devastated at 10 years old. I had a hard time handling it. I didn't understand it. I didn't believe it at first. She was cremated, so not being able to physically see her passed away was hard for me. So and I wasn't really told at first how she had died, so I struggled with that for a few years. And then when I, was confirmed that she did kill herself, it was hard to understand why she would make that choice over being with her kids. And from that point on, my life was just kind of a struggle. It had its ups and downs, but for the longest time, it seemed like there was just so many downs, and that's all I could really focus on. 2 years after that, my mom's mom, my grandma, passed away due to lung cancer. She probably chain smoked when she was 12 or something. So that's how they did it back in the day. And and that was tough because she was kind of like my mom's replacement for a little while. I couldn't wait to see her. She was super nurturing. I spent a whole summer with her before she passed. And it kind of hit quick, and she went quick, and it was another devastating blow. And after that, they called it emo back in my day. I started wearing lots of eyeliner, and I was real depressed. I was a depressed kid. I hit high school, and I was that girl, flannel shirts, lots of eyeliner, super, super out of it. When I was 13, I found my faith, and that kind of helped change things for me. I became a Christian. And it was hard, though, being a Christian when you just hit high school, and there's so many cliques and social pressures. It was difficult, and I didn't find a group that I really fit into. So it was a struggle, and a struggle to keep my faith. I was baptized when I was 14, but then when I was 16, I was real excited. So in my household, when you're 16, you start to earn privileges. I already had a job, but I was allowed to wear a two-piece and stuff like that. It was adult time. I was starting to be kind of grown up. So I was super stoked. I saved money to buy this two-piece swimsuit. And the first thing I wanted to do was go to my best friend's house. We called him Fat Joe, and I know that's not nice, but his name was Joe, and he was fat. And he was my neighbor. But he was my best friend. I had grown up with him. Like I said, he lived right across the street, and he had a pool. So I threw my two-piece on, went to his pool. We were having a blast. And I had to go to the bathroom real quick, so I ran in his house to go to the bathroom. And I was stopped by his 52-year-old father, who also thought I looked great and was excited about my two-piece, and proceeded to touch me in every place he could. And at 16, I had no experience with guys. I was very sheltered, and I didn't know what was happening or what was going on. So, I was assaulted that day, and it was rough. It was hard to handle because I was so excited. It was literally my birthday when this happened, and I was so stoked about finally being an adult and coming into my own. And I didn't realize, what that meant and what all went into it. And so when I went home, crying, and a few hours later told my parents, the reaction I got wasn't what I had hoped or what you would think. My dad just yelled at me for wearing that two-piece and said, "I told you, when you wear stuff like that, you attract the wrong attention. You shouldn't have done that." And so no cops were called, nothing was done. I was blamed for it ultimately. And at that moment, having lost my mom, I felt like I lost my dad too. I realized I thought at the time that I had nobody to protect me. I really had to fight for myself. And that was hard. It was hard. I almost felt like an orphan. Even though my dad was there, he was physically present. He had 5 kids now, 3 from my stepmom, 2 from my mom. And he was just so busy just trying to make ends meet. He worked hard. He was a mechanic, so he didn't make a ton of money. So he just wasn't present. And him and my stepmom didn't go along. They didn't have a good relationship either. And my stepmom was just kind of a cold-hearted. She was the opposite of my mom, not nurturing. You only got hugs twice a year, your birthday and Christmas, and that's because you had to. That was your thankful, "Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm out." But so it was just hard. I really felt unloved. I lacked that unconditional love, and I kept looking for it in every wrong place. you could. I didn't, I was just lost. I was kind of a lost soul. And it didn't end there, and that's the hard part for me. After I'd found my faith, I was trying to stay in there and hang in there, but it was hard. It was like a constant battle. Like I would pray about things and feel like that would get me through. On the other hand, I'd be like, why, God, do you keep doing this to me? Things just keep happening. I joined the military 2 weeks after I turned 18 because I just had to get out of the house. I wanted to get as far away from Ohio and my family. I'm one of those people who wanted to get as far away from my family as possible. I didn't like a lot of people. I needed to get away. And my brother had joined, so I was kind of following in his footsteps as well. And it was the quickest way out, so I left. And basic training was good for me. It gave me some confidence that I could do things I didn't think I thought I could. And it was good. And then tech school hit. I had one of those tech school marriages because, hey, somebody loves me. In my whole childhood, I didn't feel loved at all. I felt like alone all the time. So the opportunity to be loved and not be alone anymore was huge for me. So I was one of those tech school marriages where I got married because there was orders, and he left to go to the next base, and I was left at tech school by myself. And that's when I received the phone call that my Uncle John, my mom's brother, shot and killed himself in front of his kids. You think, how can this stuff happen? How do, just so many people, like these siblings that are killing themselves, like it's just hard. And when that hit me, it was like my mom died all over again. And I had to go through all those grieving steps over again. But it hit me so hard, and it was like I didn't quite recover from my mom as I thought I did, and it was just devastating. And I'm in tech school, and it's my uncle, so technically he's not a close relative, so I'm not supposed to leave and go to the funeral. And man, that was just so hard. And thankfully I had some great people who I got the Air Force Assistance Fund came through and helped me buy my plane tickets home, because I was at A1C, I don't have any money. So I handed it all to my ex-husband. And so I had no money, I had no support really, but Air Force Assistance Fund came through, helped out, and they let me go home for the funeral. I had to skip a block and all that, but it was good because my family needed me and I needed it. I needed to get home to help through it. But it was still hard, and when I stayed strong. I wore my blues to the funeral, and I was trying to be tough. I always say when I put this uniform on, I want people to see a tough, strong woman, and now an NCO that can get through anything. And that's what I did. But an airman at the time. I put my uniform on, went to the funeral, played tough, hardly cried. But inside, I was just devastated. And when I got back to tech school, I was even more devastated because now I was by myself. I had no friends. All my friends had left for their first bases. And I was just by myself. I was not in the same class anymore because I had skipped a block, and all of my classmates had moved on. So I was just alone. At least that's what I felt like. I felt like I was all by myself. And it didn't matter who talked to me and asked if I was okay, how many instructors were like, hey, how you doing? I was alone. I didn't feel like anybody was in my shoes. They didn't understand what I was going through. So probably like the first or second night I got back, I just looked around, and I grabbed the closest bottle I could find and literally took him to the head, drank whatever to just get him down. And I thought, I was hoping I would go to sleep and just not wake up, because that'd be the easiest way. I just didn't want to deal with that pain anymore. It was hard, so hard. And so I felt like if I could just sleep, it would be better, because it's hard to sleep when you're going through all that stuff too. But I grabbed caffeine pills, which is not a good thing to try if you want to go to sleep. And so I was sick. All it did was make me sick for like 8 hours straight. I threw up and stuff like that. And somebody found me, took me to the doctor, and they gave me some chalk. And as I was coming out of it, I just remember not wanting to be sick anymore. I hate it because I literally threw up for hours. My chest hurt. Everything was miserable. I just made myself extremely ill. And I woke up thinking I didn't want to be sick anymore, and maybe it's not my time to go. So I recovered from that. I didn't tell anybody. I was trying to get a clearance at my first job, my first base, and I didn't want to lose that clearance. I didn't want to lose that assignment. It was to be with my husband, So I kind of told them I was just trying to wake up for school, and I was having a hard time, and that's why I took the pills. So I pressed forward. I didn't really get any help, and I moved on to my first base. Marriage didn't work out. That fell through. And during our separation, actually, it was like 6 months after I got to my first base, I miscarried. And that was devastating too. Throughout this whole time, I felt like I just can't win. I'm just failing at everything. And I couldn't understand why this stuff just happens to me. Why can't I get a win? Can I get something positive to happen? But there were positive things happening. I just couldn't see it because of the depression and all the stuff I was going through. So after the miscarriage, I tried to kind of better my life. I met some good friends, started going back to church, and trying to just really cleanse my soul, if that makes any sense. And then I got orders to Nellis Air Force Base. It was a special duty assignment that involved lots of traveling, and we worked so hard in that job, and we played even harder. For as much work as we did, and some amazing things out in the community, the second we got off work, we were just hitting it. And I had used alcohol as a coping mechanism before, not realizing it, just thinking I'm trying to have a good time. But when I got to this job, I drank so much, my tolerance was so high. It's embarrassing. I literally, it would take 7-8 drinks, doubles at a club, just to feel like I'm ready to get the party started. Let's go, let's do this. So, and I didn't notice at the time, I just thought I was having a good time, not realizing I'm bearing a lot of things. And I met my second husband there. He was about 11 years older than me. And we kind of met in this party drinking scene, where we're just partying all the time and we're living the high life. We're living in Vegas, we're hitting the clubs, we're eating out at fancy restaurants, and we travel, we do the same when we're out. It was just an exciting life. So when we got married, that's the life we were living. So when we PCS to the next base, all that stopped. We bought a house and we're trying to do this settle down thing, and from the high life to that, it just wasn't working out. And I started to get to know my husband like I didn't know before, because we were just drinking most of the time. I was a Christian, he was an atheist. Hey, it's a good thing to know before you get married. But orders, again, he had orders, he didn't want to be a part. The one good thing he did was support. Well, he did lots of good things, sorry, that sounded bad, not bashing him. He was really supportive. My grandpa, my mom's dad, passed away after a car accident. He always fell asleep at the wheel. He was terrifying to drive with. And this time he broke both of his femurs, and when you're in your 80s already, it was just hard for him to recover, and he died in his sleep. And so my second husband was really supportive about that and helped me out. But that was another blow. So grandpa, grandma gone, mom, Uncle John. I have one uncle left who's hanging out there, and that poor man is struggling with alcoholism, depression, and now he has cancer. There's a lot of stuff going on. So just, things were just hitting still. And every time something would happen, it was just like another blow. So 4 months after we get to our second base, that's at MacDill, we both get orders to deploy. And back then it was 4 months deployment. He goes to Bosnia, I go to the UAE. Easy deployment, you'd think. But our relationship was already starting to falter before that even happened. Like I said, we weren't getting along. I wanted kids. He was older, already had 2 kids. He wasn't sure if he wanted any more. All stuff you should iron out before you get married. But again, when those orders come down, you freak out sometimes and you make that leap. So it started to fail during that deployment, and I started to ask to be separated when we returned. A lot of stuff just going on. And when we get back, we try to make it work. We're both back at the same time, try to get the house together. We realized the house was too much. Let's sell it. Let's just focus on traveling and getting back to the kind of lifestyle we had before, and maybe that would help us reconnect. But then 2 months after we get back, we get that he gets those orders, a 365 to Iraq. So 4 months, that's all we had together before he was leaving for a whole year. And he had 2 months of the combat skills training on top of it. And it was just like another blow to our marriage. It felt like there's nothing we could do to keep this together. But we kind of said we would try. Part of me knew it wouldn't work on the inside. When I say part of me, I knew it wouldn't work. But him going to Iraq and the convoys and stuff he was going to be doing, I didn't have the heart to tell him that. I was really scared that if I wasn't there for him on the other line, that he wouldn't make it. So I tried to stay strong for him on the phone. Off the phone, I'm drinking, I'm depressed, I'm having a horrible time. I've moved on with my life. I'm partying. And the result of this partying was I got caught doing something stupid, and I got Article 15 and I got a stripe taken away. Absolutely devastating, because up until this point, I put on this uniform and I was the ultimate NCO, I was the ultimate airman. I was that go-to person you looked at and said, wow, she's got her stuff together. And this point, it bled over into my career. It's the first time that happened. and people saw that I was going through some stuff. So it was devastating because the career, for me, putting on this uniform and coming to work, that was all I had left. My personal life was in absolute shambles. When I put this on, I could be somebody else, you know? I could be that superhero, as I call it, Wonder Woman. And, excuse me. So it was devastating to lose that. And I made staff late, so I mean, my line number is like 7:20. That just tells you how late I made it. So to lose that staff stripe that I was finally ready for and worked hard for, it was just awful. It was a horrible feeling. I did earn it back 4 months later. I worked really hard, and I did get it back. But it almost didn't matter in my personal life because I didn't see it. I didn't see the positive things I was doing. I knew I could at work. I couldn't do it at home. So during this drinking and depressive phase, I met my third husband, my current husband, and he was such a good guy. Like he's this boyish charm. Like I loved him from the first time I saw him, but I never thought I was good enough for him because I still was so depressed. I thought something's wrong with me. I can't make a marriage work. I can't make any relationship work because I'm crazy. I don't know what it is. It's just not work. I'm not good enough. It's kind of the theme throughout my life. I'm not good enough. I wasn't good enough to keep my mom alive. I wasn't good enough I didn't call my uncle like I should have. Maybe that would have kept him alive. I always put everything on me. I blame myself for everything. And it makes no sense whatsoever, but that's how my brain worked for a long time. But 3 months after dating, I get pregnant. And I thought I couldn't have kids. I'm 26 at this point. Been in a lot of relationships. Nothing came out of it. Didn't use a lot of protection. Wasn't on birth control. I literally thought I just wasn't able to have kids. So getting pregnant that quick, and then I didn't miscarry. I made it through the whole pregnancy. We get married towards the end. Orders again. He had orders to Italy, and we wanted to give our family the best chance we could. And we did, and thank God. But the second they placed my son, my firstborn son, Jackson James, in my hands, it all clicked. It was like the stars aligned, and everything started to make sense to me. The blessing that I had, my purpose, and that's what I was missing this whole time was purpose. I didn't have purpose and meaning in my life. Now that I had my son, I had purpose, and I knew why God kept me here on this planet, and that was to raise this little boy, to be his mom, to make the best out of this little human being that I can. And I was so grateful and thankful, and I had a new purpose in life, to give him the best life I possibly could. And everything started to get better from that point. My relationship flourished with my husband. My son was 10 months old, and I got pregnant with my daughter. And then that kind of started a rough point in my marriage with my husband, where he volunteered to deploy during the birth of my daughter. And I took it as an attack at myself, you know. He didn't want to be with me, he didn't want to help me. And being that I I started to get depressed again because I had to PCS to a new base by myself while he was in Afghanistan, and I had to have the baby by myself in a new location. I had to have a C-section because I had one before. It was just a lot of things. I had to really pull on those support systems, which I don't have any out of my family, so I had to pull from his family. And it was just, I was alone, scared and alone. And he put me there. That's the way I looked at it. And so I was hurt, and that kind of started problems in our relationship. We managed through, it was Mountain Home that I PCS to. We managed through that base. It's a unique base because it's remote, and so you kind of have to make up fun to do, and our makeup fun was just living on base and drinking with the neighbors, and that's what we did. We had lots of partying and fun with the neighbors, but our relationship, we just started to drift apart. We didn't communicate, we didn't talk. There was just so much hurt back and forth between each other, between words and actions, that we just started to walk on eggshells, so you just get scared to talk to each other. And it got to the point where we spent more time playing on our phones and talking to other people than we were to each other. And like I said, we were just drifting apart. And then my husband got orders to come here, or not here, but to retrain. He had to force retrain into weather, which weather is like an 8-month school. So when your relationship's on the rocks, and then it's almost like the same thing as my second marriage, where he got that massive deployment right when we needed to work on our relationship. So this is the same thing that happened. We had gone to counseling on base. We finally got into the groove with a counselor at the Airman Family Readiness Center, but then sequestration happened, and they couldn't come to work for a while, and it kind of like popped our little bubble of progress. And so he leaves for training, and within 2 months, like, I just check out. I'm done with this marriage. I'm done trying, and I'm angry. I'm depressed. I start drinking again. I was in my master's program on top of that, so I send the kids to him for a few months to try to focus and get myself right. And all I did was not having my kids there as my purpose every day. I just drank more. I would have failed the class if it wasn't for awesome teachers to help me through. And I stopped taking classes because I couldn't handle it. I was just so mentally out of it. I was so devastated, ready to give up. And then I literally had divorce papers written up when I came here to Barksdale. I keep hitting the mic. I'm really sorry about that. So I had divorce papers written up when I came here. I literally was going to get here, roll them over to my husband, and be like, all right, we're done. Which was so hard for me. I felt like such a failure. This is my third marriage. And I didn't want to do this to my kids. That was my purpose, was to give them the best life. And for me, the best life was having mommy and daddy both there, because we both love them so much. My husband's a great father. But when we got here, the thing was, through that whole 8 months, my husband never gave up on me. I would call him, tell him I hated him. I hate your life. Don't ever talk to me again. He never gave up. He found his faith. And for him, God was saying, I want this marriage to work. And his faith in me showed me this unconditional love that I had been looking for this whole time. And it was in our faith the whole time. So if I would have just found my faith or stuck to my faith or practiced it earlier, that spiritual resilience that I needed, and that's what we found. So when we got here, we tried the MFLAC, because I was like, this is our last chance, right, to make this work. We'll live together. We'll give it a go. We'll give it the best go we have. We both want this to work for our family. So we get here, we give the MFLAC call. We have like 2 meetings with him. And by the second meeting, they pretty much were like, oh, she's done. Might as well just give this up. And he started giving me information on divorce lawyers. And when we walked out of there, I realized, it just hit me that I wasn't ready for that. As much as I had talked about it, thought I was ready, I just wasn't quite ready yet. And we said, let's try again. So we called the chaplains. And man, that was the best thing. We found a chaplain, because we both love sports, my husband and I. It's one of the reasons I fell in love with him. He loves sports. He plays sports. He's that guy. So we found a chaplain that can talk to us in like football terms, to where we could understand, you're the quarterback, you're the, whatever. And it was the best thing, and everything started to click. And we recommitted to each other, and mostly to our faith. And once we recommitted to our faith, everything for us is all in the Bible as far as what I need to do to be a good wife, to be a good mom. And so doing that, like, we've been in the safest place, I can say. This is the safest place in my life, safest place in my marriage, the happiest time I've been. This was a couple years ago that this happened. But blessings abound. Ever since that happened, we've been blessed, one thing after another. I got pregnant with my son, Tobias, a year ago. He's a beautiful little baby. So it's our third baby we've had. And our cup is full, very full. It overfloweth. And it's just amazing what you can do if you just don't give up. And that's why I'm here today. I'd done a lot of things throughout this whole time to try to recover. I became a victim advocate because I went through what I went through. I'm a master resilience trainer because I like to share my story and I want to help other people. These are my ways of healing. Talking to you, this is my healing. And what I want to, the best thing I want to share with you guys today, the point I want to get across, is to just not give up. When you go to mental health and they're not working out for you, try something else. When you go to the MFLAC like we did, and they're just rubbing us the wrong way. He gave up on us before we did, So I didn't like that. It didn't work out. Go somewhere else. If I had given up, I wouldn't be sitting here happy with the most solid family situation and in the best place of my life if I had given up. I can handle things better because I'm spiritually resilient, and that's the best thing I used. So just don't give up. That's my biggest thing. Even when times are awful, even when it's hopeless. I had multiple times where it was absolutely hopeless. I wanted to give up. I wanted to walk away. I wanted to say, I can't take any more. But don't give up. Find your friends. Lean on somebody. Talk to somebody. Somebody will listen, and somebody will help. We have so many helping agencies out there. There's bound to have one that works for you. So just, that's my speech. Don't give up. And thank you for letting me talk here today.